Namaste, everybody, and happy whatever day it is that you're watching this. Because, as I say, any day that you watch anything on the internet, whether it's myself or anybody else, it's a day that you're supposed to watch it. Much like the day that you have interactions with people, or the day that you're supposed to have those interactions with people. In fact, because there are no mistakes and no coincidences, every single tiny detail of your life is unfolding. Wait for it, perfectly, perfectly. I know we love to blame, we love to yell, we love to get annoyed. No, why is it done like this? Why is it done like that? We signed up for it. You signed up for it. You picked everything on your cosmic blueprint. I know it's very hard. We do have free will, so we can change anything, obviously. But everything that is chosen that it happens, it's because you're so contracted to come here and do that and have that experience. I'm really in this thing right now. I was with someone today and I was talking about like the mistakes that we make. But I'm really in this thing that there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes. And I know people go, well, this person attacked that person and did this horrible thing. And, they can look at it and I would be like, that was a mistake. But it wasn't. The only time anybody, first off, if we're using the analogy of an attack, the only time that's happened is because it's their trauma that's projecting the ego. But also if that's why, then there's a reason why that's happening. So there are no mistakes. Every single thing is for you. Everything is for you. What you perceive as the good and bad, it is all for you. So I really want you to think of like a beautiful sweater, like in Scotland, we call it a jumper. So a beautiful jumper that's woven so delicately and so beautifully. And if you just pull the thread, the way that unravels, it's going to unravel perfectly. It's going to unravel in the way that it's supposed to. It's not going to unravel and then something pops on the other side. It's unraveling perfectly. So when something is stitched together, such as you, because you are stitched together perfectly with everything that comes with that, and that's the hardships and the brokenness and all of it, there's a perfection within the imperfection always. I want you to think of when things go really, really well and when things don't. They're still going well because they're unraveling in the system that they're supposed to unravel in. There is a divinity to all of it, to all of it. That's actually not what I'm here to talk about. But this is going to thread in, keeping in this whole metaphor of threads. So I've been hearing lately, especially in the past week, and I really want to address this. And the best way for me to do it human to human without getting too into the sixth dimension is when children come here. The reason why children are your greatest teachers, if you're a parent, your child is your greatest teacher and will be. When children, especially when they're young, they were the ones that were just there. They just came from pure source, right? So they were there more recently than you were, which is why they come in and they're so in tune. They know what bothers them, they know what they like, they know what makes them happy. They're so in tune and they're empaths. So they have heightened sensitivity. So they're sensitive to a lot of different things. That's because they just came from source. So they still have all of that, I want to say, like extra sensory abilities around them right now. They've not been programmed to the constructs of the third dimension yet. That's why when kids come in, I always tell parents, you got to listen to them. You got to listen to them. They know, they will literally tell you. And when their gut feels that they don't like something or this isn't right, they are correct. So I want you to think of you when you were a child and when you were in the playground at school or wherever you were, when you were very, very young. Think about how great your imagination was. Like there was no limitations to anything. You just had this fabulous imagination, right? Because you were just there. You were most recently just with source before you took the body. So when you come in, especially when you're a young human, your imagination is huge. There's no limitations. There's nothing because the constructs of the programming of the third dimension has not yet been imprinted in you. So the constructs of the matrix of the humanness has not yet been programmed into you. So your imagination is phenomenal. And because we are in a system that likes to pull that out of kids very young, that's why school was set up. It was, this is the way it is. And, the bell rings. I mean, we're like sheep. The bell rings and you follow the bell. And it's very It's the construct, it's the matrix. But this is going somewhere, so hang on. So when we get into that matrix and then the teachers start telling you, like this is the way it is and whatnot, what happens to that phenomenal imagination, especially when you're so young, is it starts to actually shrink. And what's happening to you is you're starting to be programmed to the constructs of the matrix of the imagination. So, for instance, if I say to someone, oh, you should sit down and you should visualize, you should do a visualization, you should sit down and visualize how you see that, not how it's going to go, because we're not in the dispatch center being the ones that are dispatching. They are. We're the ones that are putting in the order and then we're waiting to receive it, right? So much like Amazon, you click, you put in the order and you just surrender and you open up to the stream of receiving. You're not out, how. It's always the how. We always want to know the how. How's it going to get here? How am I going to do this? You don't have to know every how. It's not your job. Your job is not doing what they do. Your job is to sit back and receive, not how your way to achieving, but sit back and receiving, right? Think of yourself as I work in receiving. So all my orders just come to me. Every order I put out to the universe just comes to me because I'm in receiving, and that's where I'm going to receive it, obviously. But this is what I want you to get with this. Is your imagination hindering your receivership of your visualizations? I want you to think of, do you have a limitation, a construct on your imagination based on what has been programmed into you in this third dimensional matrix? Do you guys get that? Is your imagination limited to what beliefs have been imprinted into you your whole life? Because there's a lot of people that they will only imagine to the degree that they have been programmed in this body, instead of, well, what is the limitation beyond that? Say this is the dome over your imagination, right? There's all this space outside of it. So when you're tapping into your third eye, into the pineal gland, and you're really moving through, and say you're setting focus, like if you've ever done any of Napoleon Hill's work, and he's very, very big on sitting down and visualizing your goals and things that you want to do, but seeing the end result, not seeing the hows, but seeing, just living in it, just having that experience. So is Dr. Joe Dispenza big on this too, because you're rewiring your brain, right? You're rewiring. So you're unraveling the sweater, you're undoing the wires of what was programmed into you being in these bodies. But what the matrix keepers are very good at is programming you to have your imagination to a certain degree, but making sure there is a construct on that imagination. I will give you an example. Do you believe that people could suddenly be born with 4 arms? Probably not, right? Because your imagination's not really gone there. But do you know, if you actually really believed that you were going to have a child that had 4 arms, but you didn't believe, you knew it with every fiber of your being, much like when a human is born, they typically have 2 arms and 2 legs. If you had the same knowing with the 4 arms, you would have a 4-arm child. And you know what would happen? Other people would start having 4-arm children, because you burst through the constructs of your imagination. You've actually pierced a hole in the limitation of what your mind can actually conceive. And the minute that is done and that energy pierces out, it overflows, and other people go, that's what's possible. If that's what's possible, then I can make that possible too. Are you tracking this? So what I'm saying is, in your life right now, is there something that you're like, this is what I would like? And it doesn't have to be, I'm not talking about just materialism here. I'm talking about a state of being. Do you want more peace? Do you want more ease? Do you want more happiness? Do you want a partner? Do you want a child? Do you want a new house? Do you want a new job? Whatever it is, it has to first be conceived in your imagination. It has to. But are you limited in your imagination based on what your mind believes you can conceive? Really think about that. So when you sit down to visualize, is there a ceiling there? Oh, my universal mind doesn't know beyond that. It's going to be very hard for you to think on this, because a lot of the times, and I just heard the word, there's the rub. There's the rub. Because a lot of times there are people that cannot pierce through that ceiling of their matrix of imagination because they've been programmed so hard by this third dimensional world. I know for a lot of the normies out there, you're like, what is third dimension and what is the matrix and what is all of this? I'm going to say it in like real simplified layman's terms. Your imagination can only go as far as what you have been programmed to believe. Whatever is being programmed into your mind, and you release that into the universal mind, that's exactly what you will get, what is equal to that. So does your imagination, and are you able to pierce through the barrier of what your mind has been programmed? There's a lot of people that I talk to and they go, oh, I would love a house. Well, what kind of house? And then they kind of say it and then they go, a boat. And in my mind, I'm saying, well, that's because your imagination is programmed to be like, that's what equals success, right? By the way, it doesn't at all. And it will make some people happy, of course, and it will make other people unhappy. But there's more. There's more, but you're hitting the limit of your imagination. So what are your constructs? What are you confined by? What programming has been put in there that is limiting you piercing through? Think of the ladies in the Blue Origin. I know you're all laughing because we're like, okay, we all know about that. But all I'm saying is piercing through the barrier. Imagine you are in that your own ship and you're piercing through to what you don't even know yet is possible. Not just possible in your mind, but possible here. Anything. And I promise you, there is so many people walking around with constructs on their imagination. There is. Because there's things not even being put in there that your mind is like, that would never happen. Like, that doesn't happen here. That would never happen. That's impossible. Think about that. Because every time you think about something like that, that's programming. And that's what happened way after you came here. That's what happened when you went into the system and the system started programming your new software. Well, no, we're gonna make you believe that this is a limitation. You can get this far and that's a limitation. But what's beyond that? This is really, really, really deep. I know it's 6-dimensional work, but what is beyond that? And are you limiting yourself in your imagination? When I was young, really, really young, I was an 80s kid. So I grew up in the 80s. When I was young, my favorite band were Wham. I was like convinced, I was in love with George Michael. I had George Michael and Andrew originally, their posters up on my wall. And I was convinced that I was going to marry George Michael. I was going to marry George Michael. How little did I know? But I was young. But my imagination was phenomenal. There was no limitation, none, zero. I mean, after that, then it was like Jason Priestley from Beverly Hills 90210, and then you go on. But think about it and think about when you were a kid. That was your imagination, right? And then when you start to grow up, what happens to that? It starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller because you start to go, well, that's not really reality. I mean, I certainly knew in the end I was never going to marry George Michael, but that's okay. I did end up actually meeting Jason Priestley. But there's things that you start to realize, well, that's not going to happen and that's not going to happen. But if you think about that on a bigger scale with everything, that's programming, right? If I really believed that I was going to marry Jason Priestley, which I never, I think at a time I was like, I'm going to marry him. But then I never thought much more of it. If I really believed that, more than likely, and I pierced through that barrier, more than likely, I would have created that. I don't know if he would have created that, but I would have created that. But what I'm saying is, are there barriers on the limitation of your imagination? And that's for you to think about. So when you sit down and when you think about bringing things into your life and how they're going to be, really think, have I hit the ceiling on my imagination, or is there more? Is there more? And if there's more, what is it? What is it? Your mind ain't separate from the universal mind. It is not. And guess what? The universal mind doesn't actually know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. Think about that. What is real and what is imagined? So the minute you imagine something, and what are you doing? Imagine, let's break it down. You're putting an image in, right? Imagine, you're putting the image in. So you're inserting it in, you're programming the software. So if I'm putting an image into the universal mind, slotting it into my mind, think of me like the projector or your mind like the projector, and you put the image in and it projects up on the big screen. And now it's the same. So whatever image you're putting in, that's what's projecting out there. That's what shall become. That's the truth. But never, ever, ever limit your image in. Never limit what you're putting in, because anything that you decide upon and you really put out there and you allow that energy to go into the universal field, it is done. It is done. It is done. And by the way, I've said it before and I'll say it once more because it's relevant right now. The universe speaks one language, one: energy. Energy. So that's why this is the time to start busting through that ceiling of, are there limitations? Are there constructs? Am I confining myself to what my programming is? Or is there more? Is there more for me to go to? Is there higher places for me to tap into? And I can assure you there is, because there's source. That's why kids are so great at this. I mean, kids literally will go outside and they'll be in an entire world and they'll fully believe it because they are. They are. And they're seeing the elementals and the fairies and everything, and they're so in it. When was the last time you did anything with that kind of conviction? Seriously, think about it. When was the last time you immersed yourself so deeply that you completely forgot about the world around you? And you were like the child playing with all the elementals in the garden. You were so invested. The creation possibilities that happens when you're that connected are limitless. Limitless. That is why, by the way, so many people used to love to go to the movie theaters. That's why. Because you would go, and if you got swept up into a great picture, momentarily you forgot everything. You forgot the world around you, and you were so invested. And you're crying with the person that's crying, and you're in love with the person that's in love with. That's why we're so drawn to that. That's what children are so brilliant at. And that's what the time is for all of us to start getting back to. Because, my friends, not only does it change your life, it changes the world. It changes the world. Why do you think there's so much coming at all of us now? Constant. Because it's trying to move you out of that. Distract. It's all for your attention. So it pulls you out of being that completely aligned and connected to source, and in this pure state of imagination. Think of that Willy Wonka song. In a world of pure imagination. Think about it. You're in a world of pure imagination. My friends, it is time. It is time to sit down, align, and start to move in to that world of pure imagination for yourself. Seeing things as you would like to see them, feeling things as you'd like to feel them, imagining once again and coming back to child's play, getting in that place of being, I'm going to be so immersed in this that I'm not going to pay attention to anything that's going on out there. This is how we change the world. And I'm telling you, this is how you change yourself. This is how you change yourself. A lot of people would ask me, like, what drew me when I was very young into the entertainment world. And, you know, I was acting and dancing and singing at a young age on stage. And I had one word: play. Play. I get to play. I would be in this unbelievable world and I get to play, and it's my imagination and it's beautiful. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom had to come and check I was still alive. She'd come in the room and be like, for hours. I'd be in this room for hours, and I would have, you know, my Little Ponies and my flower fitties and my Barbies. And she said, I would walk in and you had an entire world around you. And of course, I'm talking to spirit kids because I would see them on the other side. So I would talk to the spirit children, but I was in an entire world. And I tell you, that world was real. I saw them, I heard them, I was fully playing with them. Can you make it that real again? Because the minute you make it that real again for you, you change your life. I promise you, you change your life. I'm not telling you do hard work. I'm not telling you, you got to like into being. No, but it's time to play. It's time to get back into childlike wonder. It's time to get back into imagination. And it's time to get back into actually visualizing again, dreaming, getting back into that state of dreaming. If we all did that, we'd be like these tiny little Christmas lights all over the world, right? Or candles, and we just light up because we'd be so connected to source, we'd light up, and then every single one would light up. And before we know it, we'd all be so aligned and so connected. There would be peace on earth. There would be goodwill to all. There would be love, so much love. But most importantly, it would be light. We would have lit up the whole world because we ourselves are lit up. So I ask you today, on whatever day it is you're watching this, are you in the constructs of the dome of imagination, or are you piercing through the barriers to what is possible and what you can tap into and immerse yourself into and see it and feel it and play again? This journey here is supposed to be fun. I know it's going to get hard. It's going to get hard. But if you can always come back to the childlike wonder, the play will start to grow again, and your imagination will start to grow again, and your light will start to grow again. So if you haven't played in a while, get together with some friends and go play. I don't care if it's mini golf, a roller coaster, or get in your garden, dig up some weeds, go to a paint class, go to a dance class, go to an improv class. Just play. Get in that energy of play. I'm telling you, it will help. It will help you, and it will help this world. So my gift to you today is be in that world of pure imagination, because you, my darling, are the magician, and you've always had the magic. Make it count. You've got this, and have fun. I love you, and namaste.